Maine. People hear the name and think lobster, lighthouses, and Stephen King. Just another cold New England state at the top of the map, right? Wrong. Because Maine has 3,478 miles of coastline folded into a straight line distance of just 228 miles. It contains a single county bigger than Connecticut and Rhode Island combined. And it's 89% forest, the most heavily forested state in America. This isn't just lobster rolls and LL Bean, although both of those are very cool. It's a state where one county covers more land than two entire states, where 4,600 islands crowd the coastline, and where the first sunrise in the United States hits land every morning before anywhere else in the country. Today, we're counting down 15 facts about Maine. And by fact number 1, you'll understand why Maine is called the Pine Tree State, and how this remote state at the edge of the continent contains more geographic extremes than anyone expects. The final facts will prove it. So gang, hit subscribe and ring the bell so you don't miss more wild geography from across the world. Number 15. Maine is almost as large as the other 5 New England states combined. Maine covers 35,380 square miles, nearly as big as the other 5 New England states combined. Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut together cover about 39,000 square miles. Maine alone covers 91% of that. It's the largest state in New England by a massive margin, yet most people picture it as a tiny strip of coast. That's not a state, that's a geographic illusion. Number 14. The coastline is 3,478 miles long, but only 228 miles in a straight line. Maine's coastline stretches 3,478 miles when every bay, inlet, and island is traced, the 4th longest in the contiguous U.S. But measure it straight, and it's just 228 miles. The coastline is 15 times longer than the crow flies. Those extra 3,250 miles come from thousands of bays, peninsulas, and 4,600 islands jammed into the Gulf of Maine. That, my friends, is not a coastline. That's a fractal edge where land keeps refusing to end. Number 13. Maine is 89% forest, the most forested state in America. Maine is 89% covered by forest, 17.6 million acres of trees. No other state has a higher percentage of forested land. The North Maine Woods alone covers 3.5 million acres, larger than Connecticut, with no permanent residents and no paved roads. That is a continent-sized forest with a coastline attached. Number 12. Aroostook County is larger than Connecticut and Rhode Island combined. Aroostook County covers approximately 6,828 square miles, larger than Connecticut and Rhode Island combined. It's the 2nd largest county east of the Mississippi. Population, 67,000 people. That's 10 people per square mile across a county bigger than 2 states. Locals just call it the county. Let's be honest, that's not a county. That's a wilderness with a local government attached. Number 11. Maine has more than 6,000 lakes and 32,000 miles of rivers and streams. Maine contains over 6,000 lakes and 32,000 miles of rivers and streams. Moosehead Lake, the largest, covers 75,000 acres, making it the largest lake in New England. If you laid Maine's rivers end to end, they'd wrap around the Earth 1.25 times. That's not hydrology. That's a continental water system in one northern corner of America. And the geography weirdness is just getting started. Number 10. Cadillac Mountain is the first place in the U.S. to see sunrise for part of the year. From early October to early March, Cadillac Mountain in Acadia National Park, 1,530 feet high, is the first spot in the contiguous U.S. to see the sun each morning, earlier than Florida, earlier than any East Coast beach. At dawn in November, the summit catches the first light. And it is breathtaking. That's not a view. That's the edge of a continent waking up. Number 9. Maine shares a border with only one U.S. state, but 2 Canadian provinces. Maine borders only one other U.S. state, New Hampshire, along a 58-mile boundary, but it shares 611 miles of border with Canada, New Brunswick to the north and east, and Quebec in the northwest. Maine is actually more connected to Canada geographically than the United States. That's not geography. That's a peninsula of America dangling into Canadian territory. Number 8. The Desert of Maine is a real desert hidden inside a forested state. In Freeport, Maine, just 10 miles from the Atlantic, there's a real desert. The 40-acre Desert of Maine formed when overfarming in the 1800s stripped topsoil, exposing glacial sand beneath. The dunes swallowed trees and crept outward every year. One moment, you're in a beautiful New England forest. The next, it feels like the Sahara. That can't really be geology. That's actually what happens when a glacier leaves its calling card under a farm. Number 7. Mount Katahdin is the northern endpoint of the Appalachian Trail, about 2,200 miles from Georgia. Mount Katahdin rises 5,268 feet in Baxter State Park, Maine's highest peak, and the northern endpoint of the Appalachian Trail. The trail stretches about 2,200 miles south to Springer Mountain, Georgia, the walking equivalent of New York to Los Angeles plus 400 miles. Katahdin's summit sits entirely above the tree line, exposed to subarctic winds. That, gang, is not a mountain. That's the finish line with bears. Hey, gang, before we get to the top 6 facts that prove why Maine's geography is insane, remember to subscribe and hit that bell. These final facts will blow your mind. Number 6. Maine produces 99% of all wild blueberries grown in the United States. More than any place on Earth, rocky acidic soil and cool climate create perfect conditions for low-bush wild blueberries. Over 40,000 acres of barrens produce the crop. These are not supermarket blueberries. Maine's wild variety are smaller, more intense, and genetically different. That's not agriculture. That's a geographic monopoly written into the soil with blue. Number 5. The North Maine Woods contains 3.5 million acres with no paved roads. The North Maine Woods. The North Maine Woods, a privately owned wilderness covering 3.5 million acres in the state's interior, has no paved roads, no permanent residents, and virtually no cell service. It's larger than Connecticut. The entire region is managed for timber harvesting. But it also contains hundreds of lakes, remote campsites, and the headwaters of major rivers. Drive to its edge, and pavement simply stops. Beyond that, just old logging roads, trucks, moose, and silence. That's not a forest. That's what you call North America before civilization. Number 4. West Quoddy Head is the easternmost point in the United States. West Quoddy Head in Lubec, Maine, is the easternmost point in the contiguous United States, longitude 66.57 west. From the cliffs, you can see Canada across the channel. Morocco is just 3,154 miles away, closer than California. The distance from West Quoddy Head to Morocco is nearly 1,000 miles shorter than the distance from Florida to Morocco. That's not the edge of the country. That's the edge of the continent staring across the Atlantic. Number 3. Maine's tidal range reaches up to 20 feet, among the highest on the U.S. Atlantic coast. The Bay of Fundy system creates tidal ranges reaching up to 20 feet on Maine's eastern coastline. The worldwide average tidal range is just 2 feet. Maine sees 14 times that. At low tide, boats sit on dry harbor bottoms. 6 hours later, the same spot is 20 feet underwater. That's not a tide, gang. That's the ocean breathing. Number 2. Maine borders only one U.S. state, but it's closer to Europe than to California. Maine borders just one U.S. state, New Hampshire, along a 58-mile line. It shares 611 miles of border with Canada. Eastport, Maine is only about 3,000 miles from London, roughly the same distance as traveling across the United States to Los Angeles. Maine sits surprisingly close to Europe compared to most of the country. That's not a location. That's a geographic identity crisis. And number 1. Maine contains 35,380 square miles of coastline, forest, desert mountains, and island chains, all at the edge of the continent. After 14 facts, here's the truth. Maine packs 3,478 miles of coastline, 17.6 million acres of forest, 6,000 lakes, 4,600 islands, 20-foot tides, a real desert, and the end of the Appalachian Trail into 35,380 square miles. And it's almost as large as the other 5 New England states combined. A single county outgrows 2 states, and the whole thing sits closer to Morocco than California. Drive across Maine and you'll cross fractal coastlines, boreal forests, glacial deserts, and subarctic peaks, all before running out of America entirely. So now you understand why Maine is called the Pine Tree State, because the trees there aren't decoration. They're the landscape. Maine isn't just lobster and lighthouses. It's a state where sunrise hits America first, where tides rise 20 feet in 6 hours, and where the continent simply runs out of land. After learning these 15 facts about Maine, tell us which one shocked you the most. Drop it in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep exploring how geography shapes the world. As they say in Maine, that was a wicked good one. See you in the next one.